Welcome, where we are rooted in spirit. We transmit only what is coherent and we mirror only what is true.
Where we get real, get rooted, and we stay free. Welcome to Rooted in Spirit.
Hello, everyone. I thought we could begin this episode by just taking a moment to breathe and drop in to your body. So we're going to do a 4-4-4-4 breath pattern, and we'll do 3 cycles of that. So breathing in to the count of 4 in through your nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. 1. Breathing in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And the last one, you just count on your own, breathing in. Okay. I
Thank
hope
you for
everyone feels ready now.
thank you for that. That's just another example of getting rooted in your own energy and spirit. So thank you for that, Maitreya.
You're welcome.
So today, guys, our topic is distortion. And I know everybody deal with some type of distortion in their life. If it's personal, relationship, financial, whatever it is, we all deal with some type of distortion. I really agree with that.
Yeah.
I
What
guess for
what do you
me,
Yeah, what about you? What does it mean to you when I say distortion? Like what does that look like for you?
distortion is just being separated from my truth.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I mistake my fears for intuition and patterns for my reality. And it causes me to see myself or the people or situations through fear instead
Yeah.
of the truth. And which means I'm being ungrounded through that. You know, our beliefs are connected to distortions. And as we evolve and grow, our beliefs will shift and change, and that creates a different reality. What a distortion, where which was my old pattern and my old way of doing things, now it's shifted to something totally different for me. So my distinguish between that is distortion just means me being separated from my truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And oh, I got a lot of stories that, can back all that up my whole life, just from back the old version of Shataka to this version of Shataka. And the way I showed up was definitely in distortions with that because those wasn't even my beliefs. Those were outdated beliefs, those were traumas, patterns, all of that. So it really shows this ugly head throughout your life, through friends, through just different scenarios in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a beautiful chart that I would like to
Okay.
share with everyone now.
Yeah, and that'll help them kind of follow along and
Yeah, just to
see
kind of
where
get
we
an
get the
idea.
idea of distortions and where they can fit it into their own lives as well with that.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm just trying to get this
Yeah.
screen to be bigger, but
No, that's
there
pretty
we
good.
go. There we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So, because I think sometimes visuals are really helpful, right? Like how distortion moves from the center
Right.
outward, and we forget who we are, as you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
From the outer layers inward, we return home. And
So
yeah,
give us I know you gave me a personal distortion with someone, outside of you. Give me a distortion that you personally is doing or have done a pattern that you recognize within you?
I think for me, perhaps the biggest distortion comes from the wound of uh, not belonging or not
Mhm.
being understood.
Yeah.
And so when that wound gets triggered, it can create a pattern of withdrawal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't tend to be a kind of person to retaliate. I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm more the kind of person to withdraw and go
Okay.
into my cave and disconnect from everyone if I feel misunderstood or I feel like I don't belong. That that is happening. That distortion has become much less than it
Mm-hmm.
used to be. And that's, I think the nature of when we continue to evolve and grow, it doesn't necessarily mean the distortion will totally disappear, but we come to a place of acceptance and we're able to
Right.
integrate it in a more healthy way. So it's not about trying to be perfect. It's just, I think, recognizing where we're out of alignment and then bringing ourselves back into alignment. So
I
yeah,
agree.
that was a good question. Thank you
Yeah.
for asking that.
Yeah. And even for me with the personal distortion, it made me show up differently at times because just like you shared, when I didn't show up, because I told myself that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't pretty enough, to show up and just be Shataka. I would show up with different masks, people pleasing, doing different things, saying yes when I wanted to say no, not
Yeah.
taking care of my own personal needs versus trying to save and rescue other people. That was part of my distortion, thinking that I needed to do that to feel value or to feel love. That was my own
Yeah.
personal distortion with that. And when I would do that, I would hide. I liked being invisible because no one will expect anything else out of me. And then
Right.
when the distortion would get so overwhelming, I would turn into the instigator, or I would react, with anger and stress my own self out because I didn't say no when I said yes. So it would switch and alternate depending on, the situation with that. I would be invisible or I'm raw, all in your face with it because I'm mad at myself because I didn't say no. So it would switch back and forth with that on a personal
Interesting.
level.
Very interesting. Yeah. Do you think our beliefs change what we think we're seeing?
I do. I
Yeah.
think, as we grow and evolve and become more aware of who we are authentically, not what somebody told us we are, our beliefs will shift. And as our belief shifts, our thoughts create our reality. So if my beliefs and my mindset is shifting, my reality is going to shift. So those distorted beliefs that I had, it just won't serve me, this version of me right now. So that's important to know that those old foundational beliefs that you had, they helped you then. But it's okay to release them, transform them, transmute them, whatever it is you need to do for them to be this version of you, this authentic version of you. Because I think that's important. When I realize that my thoughts create my reality, I start paying more attention to those thoughts and what are those thoughts telling me? What are they showing me? Because synchronicities and just real life results going to show you your pattern if you sit still and pay attention to that.
Yeah, I remember a while back when I was doing my coaching training, and I can't remember the exact order, but I think it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like your thoughts create your beliefs, and your beliefs um, create your reactions or actions in life. And so there's like this pattern. It's like we start off with the thought form, then it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a belief
Mm-hmm.
or a pattern, and then we start acting in that way. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to start by changing the thoughts that are not coherent that are not in alignment with your truth
Right.
before it becomes a belief, you know, because
Right.
once it becomes a belief, then it's really hard because then you start behaving. The belief
Right.
becomes the behavior, and then the behavior becomes, yeah, can
Right.
become a problem. So I mean, I guess if I were to give an example, is like, let's say I think
Mm-hmm.
my thoughts are that nobody is trustworthy. And
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking that. And then I start to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is trustworthy. Then my behavior is like I start to act suspicious and I
Right.
close myself off because I believe completely that nobody is
Mm-hmm.
trustworthy. And then through that belief and through that behavior, I start attracting
Right.
people that are not trustworthy because that is the belief that
Mm-hmm.
I've put out into, that's the distortion, right? That I've
Mm-hmm.
put out into the field. Nobody's trustworthy. So
Yeah.
guess what? The universe starts sending me all these people that are ripping me off and are not trustworthy. And
Yeah.
it really does work like that. I've seen it for my own life and
Right.
how our beliefs create our reality as well. So yeah.
And being able to distinguish what's your beliefs versus your parents or your the society, community, ancestors, all of that takes a part in that. You gotta separate, okay, are these my beliefs or are these what
Right.
was programmed or told me this is the way I should show up and react to the world? You have to really distinguish what's yours and what's not yours, and you have to ask those questions. And I'm always in self-reflect mode. I have to be mindful that I don't go overboard because I can overthink, but I'm always in self-reflect mode and saying, is this me? Is this mine? Is it true? Or is this just something, a story I told myself? So it's important to dive really deep, when you're self-reflecting, and don't just do that surface layer shit because that don't get you nowhere. You gotta go, why? Okay, why and why? So I do like 3 to 4 whys until I get the root cause of what's really triggering me with a certain emotion or an event.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I remember when I did my training with Access Consciousness, one of the tools they gave us was asking that question, who does this belong to?
Mm-hmm.
To really get
Mm-hmm.
you to shift your perception and realize, like, well, maybe this isn't even mine. Maybe I'm picking up on the collective, or maybe it's an ancestral echo, or
Mm-hmm.
like it may not even be mine, you
Okay.
know? And often just asking that question, something would shift within me.
Right.
I would realize, wow, isn't even mine. Most of
Right.
the time it's not actually, especially if you're a highly sensitive person, HSP or
Mm-hmm.
an empath. Most of the time we're picking up on other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions like 24/7.
Yeah.
And if we're not doing that, we're picking up on the whole collective, which is really intense.
Right. I totally agree with you. And when you're picking up on distortions, how does this show up for you? Does it show up in your body, or what indicator is highlighted for you when distortion is in your field?
Well, for me, sometimes it can be a bodily thing where I start to feel stomach issues because
Mm-hmm.
the solar plexus chakra connected to the stomach is all about digestion, not just food, but digesting energies,
Mm-hmm.
integrating, assimilating, processing. So for me, sometimes I'll have stomach issues that
Mm-hmm.
will be a trigger.
Same.
Today I had a little bit of that I was releasing a lot, and then now I feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Also, sometimes I get like a looping thing happening in my mind where I keep thinking about the same thing over and over again. That doesn't happen as much as it used to, but today it happened. And I was like, why is this looping? So what did
Yeah.
I do to correct it? I went into a breath coherence meditation. I do a 6-3, 6-3. Breathe
Mm-hmm.
to the count of six, holding for three, exhaling for six, holding for three. I did about 9 rounds of that,
Mm-hmm.
and the loop disappeared.
Okay.
That's how I got out of the loop.
Okay. Yeah, that's very similar to me because my body is an indicator. One of my indicators is where I start having palpitations, my heart will start racing.
Wow.
Sometimes my whole body will shiver. And in my knowing, my heart opens up. It feels like it expands. And when I'm uncertain, it feels like it contracts with that. And then when I'm on a loop, because I do the same thing, I go on a loop. When I'm uncertain, I go to the loops. I rationalize. I try to figure out, okay, what if this? I played a what woulda, coulda, shoulda game with myself with that, and how I center myself. I do a lot of self-reflecting, and at the end of my day, I kind of wind down and I play things over in my mind. Okay, what could have I done different to get a different outcome? Or is this true, or is this just a familiar pattern for me? Am I
Right.
reacting or am I creating? Or what belief is driving this response? And if I wasn't afraid, how would I see this? And a
Uh,
lot of times for me, fear shows up in things. And when fear shows up, I have different reactions to it. And some of those reactions is I shut down, go into my own hermit stage, or I may lash out. And if I lash out, after the fact, I check Shataka because can't nobody check Shataka like Shataka. So that self-reflect is, what could I have done different with that? And we're all going to go through it because just by being rooted in your spirit doesn't mean you'll never experience fear, anger, or doubt. It just means
right.
the emotions no longer get to define your reality. You can feel them without becoming them. And I had to learn that through experience because I took on those emotions, those labels, and I attached them to people and to certain events. So when I get triggered, those memories will come up for me
Right.
until I learn how to acknowledge it, love it for whatever it's worth. I love the experience, what it showed me about me. And then I release it. And sometimes I release is crying, it's cussing, it's whatever means I need to do to release that emotion out because I was taught or was shown that you don't speak up when you don't share what you're feeling to people because they're not going to understand. So I ate a lot of those emotions, which
Right.
causes diseases in my body. Now,
Right.
if I need to yell, cry, scream, whatever it is, I'm going to do it because this is me loving on me. And however that looks for me, it's different for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Beautiful.
So how does it show up for you in relationships? Did you ever have or attract any distorted relationships?
Yeah, I was just looking that on the chart, the relational distortion in my connections, projection,
Hmm.
miscommunication, control, people pleasing, unhealed
Hmm.
wounds. I would probably say all of those things happened in my relationships. The relational distortion is really a mirror for where you're not coherent within yourself.
Hmm.
So, many times, in my partnerships, there would be miscommunications. Part of it
Hmm.
was the the two significant relationships I had, they were with men who were Indonesian, and so English wasn't their first language.
Hmm.
And one of them was better in English than the other one, but there was probably some miscommunication through that. But I also realized that culturally, things in terms of how we interpret
Hmm.
or give meaning to different things were very different. Like I didn't even realize until I was involved with two men from Indonesia how their way of processing or understanding things were just completely different from me being an American. So that created distortion
All right.
because I was saying one thing and that person was interpreting it in another way. And then they would say something and I was interpreting it another way, which I think can happen with people that are both speaking the same language
Yeah.
as their first language, but it happens even more so when you're in a bicultural relationship. And so there was a lot of relational distortion for me.
Mm-hmm.
There was also me feeling I needed to people please,
Man.
especially with one partner who had anger issues and was quick to get very defensive. So I sort of, how do I say, conditioned myself to walk
Yeah.
on eggshells and make sure I didn't set him off, because he had some unhealed wounds of not feeling good enough and feeling like nobody respected him. So no
Mm-hmm.
matter what I said or how I carefully tried to rephrase things, he would often, 9 times out of 10, interpret that as me not respecting him. And and this was a really big distortion in our relationship. And then my distortion was, like I said, people pleasing and feeling I I'm not good enough. I have to
Mm.
try to be better. I'm no, he doesn't understand me. How can I make
Yeah.
myself more clear? How can I change how I communicate? And it was just a kind of vicious cycle
Mm-hmm.
that never, it was unresolved relational distortion to the point where, the relationship completely fell apart. It was just not sustainable because we were both projecting, there was miscommunication, there was control, people pleasing, unhealed wounds, all of that was happening. So,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
taught me a lot. It was really painful. Really made me take a look at myself and what wounds I needed to work on to heal, and how I needed to stop being a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a part of this awakening journey. So I'm grateful for it. And I know you also have gone through some intense experiences. What about for you, and how relational distortion kind of showed up in your situation in your life?
It showed up for, my partners,
Yeah.
and in my kids. I projected a lot of my stuff onto them too. My miscommunication went across the board, with my significant others and with my kids because I didn't know how to truly express myself. I didn't feel safe enough to do that. I'd suffered with some abandonment issues, you know, um, just people pleasing as well. That was a big part of that for me. I thought I had to show up a certain way to feel love. I thought, for my kids, I thought if I buy them this, that's another way of showing them love. I didn't have the nurturing that I thought I should have had as a kid. And so it all, went down with my kids as well. So they adapted to the way I express love with everything. But it showed up for jealousy. I would be jealous of my partner because they were affectionate and, I wasn't like that. I didn't feel safe. So I would, when I see someone else giving them attention, the jealous head would come out. The control. I love to control the situation because I felt if I can control the outcome, then everything will be the way I needed it to be. Never worked out that way. You can never control nobody but yourself. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn with that. And again, like we said, the people pleasing carried on in my kids and my work and in my friends. I had no boundaries. And that was a big problem for me because when I started establishing boundaries, no one knew how to take this version of Shataka. She's being
Right.
mean, she's being unrealistic, So I went through a lot of shaving people off and shifting, my mindset as well as my kids' mindset because they reacted to me. And I know I had to be the example for them on not being a people pleaser, learning how to communicate effectively, learning how to set healthy boundaries. Because if you don't have healthy boundaries, people will just walk all over you. And I wouldn't say nobody did it. I allowed them to do that.
Right.
I in that state I was playing the victim, but this version of me, that was all me. And I know that was all me. But now, being able to recognize the distortions, I stick with my boundaries. I don't allow anyone to, cross those boundaries. They're healthy boundaries as well as anybody to come into my life. I encourage you to have boundaries. Everyone should have healthy boundaries within their life and in their kids, because you're going to need that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I even understood what boundaries were,
Hmm.
10 years ago. I didn't know. Yeah, and then as time went on, I realized, wow, this is really important.
Right.
How do I start creating healthy boundaries? Yeah. I started to choose myself. Yeah.
And what does that look like, when someone say, I'm now giving myself self-love, I'm choosing me. What does that look like? Is it going to get your hair done or going to get a massage? What does that look like for you?
Wow, for me, it looks like tuning in like I did in the car with my friend and saying, I don't know, I'm just not feeling this is right for me to take you to the
Mhm.
airport. Look, I'm sorry. I know I said I would, but I don't know why I'm not feeling up
Yeah.
for it. Like even knowing that that person could get angry with you,
Yeah.
there could be a rupture, but you're still choosing for yourself, not to be so selfish, but to be self-full, to
Mhm.
really honor yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you do something that you really didn't want to do, in the end, then you
Yeah.
start to harbor resentment.
Hmm.
Then the resentment grows. Then you become bitter. And then the
Yeah.
whole relationship breaks up anyway because you weren't true to yourself. I think
Right.
for me, having boundaries and this journey of self-love is about being true to yourself and also speaking up. Yeah, like not being afraid to say how you really feel if something feels off, feels out of alignment, or you feel that somebody maybe said something hurtful, like,
Hmm.
but how we express that, that's important too. Because in the case of my friend, I wouldn't have minded that if she had said, I'm kind of disappointed. I feel that you did make a promise to me and now you're not following through and I'm really kind of bummed about it. That would have been okay because that's speaking her truth, but instead she started calling me selfish and all these things and that's where the distortion comes in. So speaking your truth
Hmm.
with compassion and kindness and clarity is not distortion.
Right.
Distortion is when we react out of a place of that usually comes from an unconscious wound,
Hmm.
and where we start to get, to the point where we're blaming the person, judging the person, and all these things come out. That's what's distortion. But speaking your truth isn't. That's total. But
Absolutely.
it's how we do it. Yeah, it's how we do it.
And in tone, does tone
Right.
affect you? Like, does that matter someone's tone or is it the
Oh,
words that they say?
God, yeah. And for me, because of being so empathic, I can read the field behind the
Hmm.
words. So they may be saying, I think you're a lovely person, Maitreya,
Hmm.
and I really want the best for you. And then I feel the field behind it, and I'm like, this person is totally
Yeah.
not telling me the truth. I can feel it. So it's a tone that is invisible. Like, yeah, I
Right.
can feel the tone. Yeah.
Right.
And it's always been strange for me because I'm like, since I was young, I
Hmm.
had that ability. And I'm like, why do I know they're not telling me the truth?
Yes.
Why do I feel that this person secretly really doesn't like me, or like, and then I'm like, am I crazy? Why am I
Yeah.
feeling this? But as I grew older, I realized that I had this sensitivity, which was a gift to be able to read people's energies, to
Yes.
really know what was the truth and what was a lie. But for those of you who don't feel maybe that you have that capacity yet, but we all have it,
Hmm.
tune into your gut. Like just put your hands over your stomach and just ask yourself, is this true?
Yeah.
And you'll get an answer. You'll feel it. Either your gut will tighten or maybe you'll stop breathing, or you'll feel a contraction in your heart. You pay attention, because the body is a barometer of the soul. So if you pay attention to the signs in your body, you'll know the truth. You'll get the answer.
And to even piggyback on that, when you're not sure, ask those questions. Am I rationalizing? Is it I'm working out of fear? Am I afraid? Is there a certain belief that's causing me to feel this way? Definitely check in with those questions if you're not familiar with what your body is showing you or telling you just yet. Because I sometimes do a double check. Like my body will sometimes betray me if I'm really wanting a certain thing. I'm like, okay, did I make that happen? Was that truly happen? So you really have to stay rooted in your energy to be able to distinguish from what's yours and what's going along with that belief, or what's a distortion with that, because it's hard to distinguish this at time when it's something you really want but don't even know why you want it. But when it's something you really want, you can betray your body with that. So discernment is key to all of that.
Discernment is definitely key. And I'm going to share the chart one more
Okay.
time just to show people um, what it looks like when we move to the center
Mm-hmm.
of pure coherence, the I am, the peace, the presence, the truth, the love. And so we see the signs. You're in distortion. You feel disconnected from yourself. The path back to truth is you ground in your body. You react instead of respond.
Yeah.
Check your beliefs. You see the worst in yourself and others. Get curious, not
Mm-hmm.
reactive. You feel drained or stuck. Reclaim your power. You forget your inner knowing, and you return to love and coherence. So, yes, it's not something that we arrive at and we stay coherent all the time.
Yeah.
Coherence is really in alignment with our breath, our body, our mind, our spirit. When everything is in alignment, we're in coherence. Just in case people are wondering, what is coherence? And when we're not in alignment, we can feel it. Our breath,
Mm-hmm.
maybe becomes shallow, or we're holding our breath, or our body signals that something is off. We feel drained. We feel tired.
Your
So when
muscle
we,
tightens, you
yeah,
get really tense right here. Sleep.
yeah,
You can't sleep at night, not
yeah,
knowing why. No, your body's tired, but your mind is constantly racing. You
yes,
have to
exactly.
pay attention to all of that. And even know that what you're going through can definitely be different from what the collective is going through. Because right now, if you just look at the world, look at the news, look at social media, you see a lot of projection. You see a lot of fears. You see a lot of distortions. With that, you have to definitely stay grounded when you're on social media or when you're watching the news or even just watching a regular show, because it's programming behind everything. That's why it's good to be mindful of what you're putting into your subconscious. Be mindful of what you're feeding, your digestion, not just, as Matrell said, food, but what you're actually digesting into your energy. Be very mindful of that, because there's distortions behind that. But there's nothing you can't reclaim, because you are the author and creator of your reality. So you get to choose what you allow into your reality with that. So always know that nothing has more power than you, than your choice. Your choice is your power.
I love that. I love that. So, just to wrap things up, if someone forgets everything we said today, what's one thing you hope they remember?
To always check in, self reflect, ask yourself questions. Is this a story I'm telling myself? Is this true or familiar? Is this a pattern I'm recognizing within myself? Is this a belief? Always do self reflections with that and give yourself grace. Because we're all going through it on some level. We've all experienced it. We just expressing it different. Give yourself permission to go through it. Give yourself permission to get through it. And know that you're not ever alone. You have your spiritual team, your guides, if you want to say ancestors, whatever it is you want to say, but know that you're not alone. That's part of why we're here building community because we're going through it on some level. We still go through some distortion with that, but we don't allow it to label us or unroot us or unground us.
Right, exactly. That's beautiful. I think that's I couldn't have said it any better. I think, key reminders here, see clearly, not everything is about you.
Yeah.
Pause and check. I think that's a good reminder. It's kind of like in the five agreements, where they talk about what other people think about you is none of your
Mm-hmm.
business,
At all. I believe
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So not everything is about you,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's something that I had to work on because I used to take things so personally, and I
Yes.
always thought it was something against me, but it actually wasn't. So I think that's what I would like to leave
Yeah.
our our followers with is just like, yeah, remember, not everything is about you.
Right.
Pause and check.
I love that. I love that.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So we want you guys to make sure you like, subscribe, share, and tune in weekly for a new topic or surprisingly sometime a guest. And as always, we want you to stay rooted in your spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.